everyone. My name is Lindsey Wallace. I'm the Director of Strategic Projects and Design Services here at the National Main Street Center. Welcome to the very first Dr. Downtown installment in our video series. In this series, we attempt to answer your toughest community revitalization questions that you have to offer us here. And thank you for everybody who participated via social media. We have selected one question today focused on transportation, theme of the day, and you'll hear why. The question that we have today is from Paula Scott in Bluffton, Ohio, and her question is, our 19th century downtown has limited parking, which spills into the adjacent streets. In those areas, new business owners are required to create more parking, which diminishes lawns and green space. Meanwhile, high school students are allowed to use a central parking lot. Your thoughts? Well, thanks, first of all, to Paula for sending in this question. Parking, as we know, is a huge issue in main streets across the country. So this is very timely and relevant, I'm sure, to a lot of our folks who are watching right now. The answer, of course, would depend a lot on the unique place factors in Bluffton, your parking policies, Bluffton zoning, store and school hours, etc. But some general advice and some thoughts on what you can do here. First of all, stakeholder engagement. If you haven't already, it would make a lot of sense to take some time to meet up with your Department of Transportation, your Parks and Rec department, the local high school representative, to talk about this issue together and to see if you can start brainstorming a solution together as well. This is something that affects all of you. So if you're working through it together, you can each kind of have a stake in the outcome, because the Main Street businesses, your organization, the folks that are affected by this parking issue the most, downtown is the key economic driver in the community, and that's something you can talk to them about where, maybe you should prioritize some of the parking for the people visiting, the people shopping, because of the economic driver that the Main Street businesses have. So instead of putting the onus on them to find the parking, maybe you work all together to help support that economic impact that shoppers have. In addition to that, you could host a visioning meeting with all parties involved so that you can get the community involved in addition to the stakeholders you've gathered to just talk about these options. I think the Parks and Rec folks in the Department of Transportation would be really great additions because your Parks and Rec folks know how important the green space is, your DOT folks know how important parking is, and they can help with some of the regulatory issues that'll pop up. Some incentives maybe. Perhaps you could all work together so that only a certain number of spots in the main parking lot are available for high school students and everything else is available for people shopping downtown, visitors, workers in the community. Perhaps you could incentivize high schoolers to carpool. Perhaps your organization or other local businesses could play a role in giving out coupons or vouchers for some of the high school students that carpool instead of driving separately. Could be an option. Some longer term solutions, potentially thinking about some policy shifts there. First of all, is it possible to remove requirements for new business owners to provide their own parking or to create parking spaces? Preserving green spaces, having natural elements in your downtown is a crucial piece to quality design downtown. So sacrificing green space for parking isn't an ideal solution in terms of design. So could those requirements be removed in favor of something like shared parking? Again, some of those spaces in the parking lot could be reserved for shoppers instead of high school students. Like divvy those up in a more strategic way rather than having it be totally open to the students. This is a little bit of a deeper dive, but if it makes sense for the community and would be effective, there is a concept called priced parking that targets high use areas, where if you have meters in place, if you wanted to do pay parking in some spots where those targeted areas, those high volume areas could increase prices at peak times or over the course of time. So, if you have any issues where spaces are taken up for a really long time, but there's no cost or there's no change in cost, you could do it so that at lunchtime, by lunchtime, the peak hours, get more expensive hour by hour. Maybe the students can move their cars at lunchtime, something like that, where you're getting some movement of the parked cars so they don't take up the spaces all day. just some options. One other thing just to consider, it's a longer term investment, but of course, a parking study is a great idea to assess what your actual issues are. I think sometimes with parking especially, issues are more perception than reality. I'm not saying that's the case in your case, but it might be a perception that one of your community members has or one of your stakeholders has that you could work through together with a parking study so you can see what your assets are and where your opportunities might be. Again, longer term investment, but if you're all working together, the funding for those kinds of things works out a little easier. So just an option there. We're doing this transportation related question today. Thank you again to Paula from Ohio, my home state, because we've just released this new transportation toolkit. It's called Navigating Main Streets as Places, a People-First Transportation Toolkit. We've worked with the Project for Public Spaces to create this toolkit collaboratively. We're very excited to release it. There are 3 elements. We have a handbook, an online resource library, and a 4-part webinar series that will start on October 29th. This is really a go-to resource providing guidance, best practices, tools, assessments, for both rural downtowns and commercial districts in bigger cities. So it really runs the gamut. We've had a lot of folks involved in the review and in the process, and we're really excited to share it with you. You can check it out. This is what the cover looks like. You can check it out on www.mainstreet.org/navigating main streets, and that will have not only the toolkit to download, it's a digital toolkit, but also the online resource library, so connections to all of those resources, as well as the registration link for the 4-part webinar series. The webinar series will be held on Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Central, starting October 29th. So it'll be October 29th, November 5th, November 12th, November 19th. It will be recorded, and eventually those recordings will also be available on the online resource library page. Again, that's mainstreet.org/navigating main streets. So please check it out. Really excited to hear, how people are using it, what's useful and all of that. So let us know about that. And in terms of our Dr. Downtown video series, if you have a question, please drop them in the comments below, whether it's a parking problem or any other kind of problem. We'd love to hear from you. Submit your question, and it might get answered by our field services team in the next installment of Dr. Downtown. So thank you all for watching. Have a good one.